Hi everybody, I'm Missi Matthews. Welcome inside the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. We have a special roundtable discussion today talking about quarterbacks and outside linebackers as we head into free agency. Let me introduce you to my panel, starting with Craig Wolfley. He was enjoying the offseason. We brought him back here to join us. He has been forced, as well as Bob Labriola. We always force Labs to spend some time with us, but Matt Williamson, always kind, and I feel like, Matt, we don't force you as much as we force the rest of the guys. So thank you so much for being here. That sounded a little forced, but some good news for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The team announced yesterday they have extended Kevin Colbert to a one-year deal, which will take him through the 2021 draft. Art Rooney II spoke about the new deal for him on the Steelers Nation Unite huddle last night.
Well, we were happy to extend Kevin's contract for another year, which means that he'll be here helping us prepare for at least two more of our drafts. And, of course, the scouts and Kevin's team are deep in the draft preparation as we speak, and we'll be heading over to the Combine in another few weeks. So it goes fast, and, Kevin really keeps us organized and focused, and has done a great job for the last. Can't believe it's 20. This will be his 21st year, I think. So it's been a great run with Kevin, and we're glad to continue to have him on board.
All right, so Kevin on board, helping with the draft. Also, guys, free agency, that is March 18th, so you can mark that on your calendar. And as we prepare for all of the things that happen at this time of the year, Art also mentioned the Combine. I want to get your take. We're going to focus on two positions today, quarterbacks and outside linebackers. So we'll start with the one everybody wants to talk about, the quarterbacks. So let's take a look at the number of quarterbacks currently on the Steelers roster. Might surprise some people if you haven't been paying attention a little bit here, but JT Barrett was kind of picked up towards the end. Of course, we know Devlin Hodges. Paxton Lynch was also brought on. Ben Roethlisberger, everyone wants to know more information on him, and also Mason Rudolph. Matt, I'll start with you. In terms of where this position group is trending, what is your opinion on this one?
Oh, it has to be trending upwards. I mean, considering where we saw this position last, I mean, it's certainly going in the right direction. And obviously that ties into Ben's return. And I also think it developed, Mason's development too. I mean, I look at him at this stage and think he's developing into a very strong, reliable number two. I mean, he doesn't mean that he's Ben's successor and he's a future Hall of Famer or anything like that, but he's going to be a very stable, developed number two, and has a lot of value.
Well, what do you like or dislike, and just overall thoughts on this quarterback group as we sit here today?
Well, what I like about the fact is, of course, Ben's coming back, and hopefully he's got a checkup coming up soon. He's going to start lobbing the tennis balls or whatever it is and start to move forward. But the thing about it is, look, with Mason, last year, he went through one of the toughest situations you can possibly go through. And despite it all, he came back and he locked and loaded and got the job done as far as he could till he got injured. And that's unfortunate. But the fact was, he faced the pressure, and not once. Watching him, and I spent a lot of time just watching him, even when he was off the field doing things. He never whined, he never sulked, he never pouted, he never, gave in to all the negativity and all the falsehoods going his way. He simply came back and did a good job when he had the opportunity. That's what you want to see. That's how a guy, comes across and gets the job done. When he's hit with some adversity, he learns to overcome it. It's a long NFL road out there, and there's a lot of pitfalls. And the biggest thing about it for Mason, I see him trending up, and I'm hoping also that Paxton Lynch and Devlin, I'm sure, is going to be in the mixer with some competition. But Paxton Lynch is another guy that I think gives you some hope and some promise of things to come through the offseason.
All right, now, Labs, we saw the five guys that are currently on the Steelers roster. Also on that Steelers Nation Unite huddle call last night, Art Rooney II was asked about possibly picking up a veteran or somebody. I know you were listening, so maybe explain what he said and just your thoughts as well in terms of where this group is trending.
It's not going to happen. I mean, it started with Mike Tomlin at the end of the regular season. He said that he was comfortable with Mason Rudolph as Ben's backup. Then when Art met with a group of media on January 15th, Art said to that group, we're comfortable with Mason as the number two quarterback. He said it again yesterday. I don't know how many more times it needs to be said, but the Steelers are going into the 2020 season with some combination of those guys that we saw on the screen a little bit ago. Now, normally, a team will take 4 quarterbacks to training camp. The 4th guy is usually, referred to as a camp arm. The Steelers have been, and I believe will continue to be, a team that keeps 3 quarterbacks on their 53-man roster. However, with Ben's situation, he's going to be coming back, from the elbow surgery. I don't know if everyone's aware of that. But Ben missed most of last season, had his elbow operated on. But the Steelers very likely will bring 5 quarterbacks to training camp instead of 4 because of Ben's situation. And, dividing up the work, the reps among them, that might be a little bit of a challenge, but you want as many options as you can and, let the group kind of shake it out, competition on the field. And, the couple of things I feel fairly confident in is that despite what the fan base thinks, the Steelers are comfortable, and that's the word that all of the upper level people in the organization are choosing to use, are comfortable with Mason Rudolph as Ben's backup. And the other thing is, because of that, there will be no veteran quarterbacks acquired during free agency or tried to be acquired in free agency. And I also do not believe that there's any chance that they're going to draft one. And so the quarterbacks will be 3 of the 5 that we've been looking at. Hopefully Ben is the starter and he's able to complete the entire regular season and a postseason if things go well. And Mason Rudolph will be number 2. And, then whatever else shakes out will be determined by what happens on the fields at St. Vincent College and then the 5 preseason games this year.
Stop. Let's not get that far ahead. All right, we asked you guys to submit some Twitter questions to see what's on your mind in terms of what you think is trending or what you want to know about it, these position groups. So our first one here is more of a general one from Trevor. He wants to know, what's the salary cap looking like heading into free agency? Can we afford to bring in any upgraded talent? Matt, your take on that?
Yeah, it's a little rough. I mean, if you look at it right now, I think there's only 2 teams with less cap space than the Steelers, maybe 3. And they will massage that quite a bit. They're going to have to keep some of their own. They're going to let go of some of their own. Ben's a huge cap hit right now. So I know a lot of the fan base looked at the Antonio Brown situation thinking, well, he's off the books. We're going to be able to go spend like crazy. It's not going to happen that way.
Labs, you were agreeing, Wolf?
Well, the only thing I jumped in is I'm real short. I flunked math twice. Why are you asking me?
You're not a capologist?
Well, I think it's less significant what the Steelers, in terms of the number that they are under the cap or over the cap or whatever, versus what they plan to do with the money. And the plan, what they do with the money is, number one, some kind of tag is going on Bud Dupree because, again, Mike Tomlin said in his postseason or his end of regular season presser, keeping Bud as a priority. And then Art Rooney II said on January 15th, I don't disagree with that. And so they seem to be of one mind moving forward with Bud Dupree. So that is a hunk of money there. The other significant development in terms of spending salary cap money, I think their names are TJ Watt and Cam Hayward. And so, I mean, I don't really know that you can ask, or any rational Steelers fan, would you like to keep those 3 guys?
Right.
Yes.
That's the answer. And so
Juju's up soon. And
but even Juju and James Conner, I think those are not this off-season situations. And so you look at what the Steelers' defense had become over the course of the 2019 season, and you look at some of the integral people who made it so, and where those guys are in their contracts. Bud, TJ Watt, and Cam Hayward are significant components of that, and therefore priorities. And I believe that when you look at what the Steelers are going to do with their cap money, whatever amount it is, that's where it's going to go.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
So all of that other stuff, to me, is just fantasy. Finding some extremely reasonable Travis Kelce type tight end, good luck with that.
Yeah,
right.
But I think that what's real is putting a tag on Bud and then trying to work something out with TJ and or Cam this offseason.
All right, we're going to talk about the outside linebackers in just a bit. One more Twitter question before we have to take a break, and this one is coming from Brandon. And you guys can answer this quickly. You don't have to really explain it much. Do you believe if the right quarterback fell in the draft that the Steelers would draft him?
No.
See segment 1.
Matt?
Yes, but he won't. I mean, it would have to be a massive fall of Aaron Rodgers proportions that won't happen.
Okay. Well, that one's pretty easy then. All right, we are going to take a quick break. When we return, we will talk much more about the Steelers' outside linebackers.
Hey, you know what? Let's just score the game, man. Oh. Still up by 3. Oh, man, nice. It's realistic.
Dude, Franco's a legend. Whoa. Hey, did you know you can watch highlights on the new Steelers app?
Download the Steelers official mobile app today and never miss out on any of the action. You can also receive app alerts straight to your phone when new episodes of Steelers Live are available. Just go to the settings page in the app and toggle on Steelers Live notifications.
Bless you.
Welcome back to the Steelers Roundtable, everyone. Time to talk a little outside linebackers. Labs already mentioned Bud Dupree and the Steelers saying he is a top priority. So let's take a look at who is on the Steelers roster as we sit here today. Bud and TJ Watt, of course, Anthony Chickillo, Tuzar Skipper, and also Ola Adeni. So guys, for this segment, I want to start with our fan questions first. So the first one we've kind of touched on a little bit, but let's go to it. It is, what are your thoughts on the Steelers possibly using the franchise tag on Bud Dupree and signing him to a long-term deal next season? This is coming from Joe. Matt?
I totally agree with Labs. I think that's coming very soon, and that buys you time. You know, you can put the tag on Bud, say, Bud, we'll get back to you in a little bit, deal with some housekeeping with some smaller things, restricted free agents, middle of the roster type guys, come back to Bud and work on a long-term deal with them. And eventually, as Labs mentioned, you're going to have a lot invested on your two edge guys, but this defense is designed for stars at that position, and you finally have it.
You know, it's funny because you talked to Bud, and Bud said, tag me, go ahead, tag me, please. And yeah, you're talking about almost 17 mil coming your way with that. Yeah, you wouldn't be.
You can tag me.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. You know, here's the big deal. In this defense, with those two outside guys, you finally got, and given my math, you guys will understand it. First time where you've got the two outside guys where 1 + 1 equals 3. These two guys are creating that sort of pressure. And without one or the other, I don't think you'd have quite the same sort of effect as you got with both these guys coming along and creating all the pressure that they're capable of now. And it certainly behooves the Steelers to be able to get these two guys locked up on board and be able to keep bringing the zing come next season.
Yeah, and, you know, doing that, what you just mentioned, Wolf, locking those two guys up, because I believe, you know, we saw in 2018, the Steelers led the NFL in sacks, were very close to leading the NFL in sacks, but without the kinds of ball hawks in the secondary that they have now, the defense wasn't good enough. So pressure alone isn't going to cut it in today's NFL. But what you saw this year with the acquisition of Minkah Fitzpatrick, Joe Hayden, and Steven Nelson signed last year at this time, free agency, you now have a secondary that can take advantage of some of those bad decisions that quarterbacks are making because they're under pressure from your outside pass rushers, plus Cam Hayward, et cetera. And so, you know, keeping those guys, to me, is integral, or what you've built kind of on defense could all collapse. And then where are you?
Great point. Yep.
So, you know, we saw that pass rush isn't good enough on its own in today's NFL. You've got to have the Minkahs and the Joe Haydens and Steven Nelson and those kind of people, you know, doing their thing to take advantage of the pressure that is on the quarterbacks. And so, to me, that's mandatory that you keep that together and allow it to continue to develop and grow. And so, to do that, I believe you got to keep as much of it intact as possible from a personnel standpoint, and that's why your cap money is going the way I described it in the first segment, and that's why I believe that, to answer the question, yes, you have to tag Bud and work from there.
And to your point, too, the last 2 years they've put up a lot of big sack numbers, but it's been more blitz reliant. With these guys, you can drop the seventh man into coverage a lot easier, help you create big plays, and you have the Minkas and the Bush covering so much ground that it's a great formula.
I forgot about Devin Bush, too. That's another one.
All right, let's get to our other Twitter question for outside linebackers. This one is coming from Eric. Any hope for Ola taking the next step if Bud does leave, and will Tuzar Skipper crack the rotation in 2020? Matt?
We'll see. I mean, those guys to me have to be core special teamers. Danny Smith needs to love them and then go from there. I don't know if Chickalo will be back. He's a big cap hit. So they might be, even if they do lock Bud up, that third outside linebacker spot might be something we're talking about a lot in camp.
The one thing I'm looking forward to is seeing Ola develop a little bit. Look, he's a young guy who I think has a lot of innate gifts. I mean, the ball seems to find him. He seems to have a knack for rushing the passer, but he's got to be stronger. He's got to get a little bit bigger and be able to hold the point of attack a little bit better and come down on the backside, do the things that you got to do to be a guy, on that defense, on the outside there. And he's got to be capable of special teams, which he's capable of doing. But it's about maturing the body, and I think Tuzar Skipper presents an interesting guy. He's capable. He's done some good things. Now, if he can take the next step, there's a lot to be done before you get to the point next year saying, are they in or out? We don't know. I mean, it's basically, how do they develop over the offseason? Do they build their bodies up? Are they stronger? And then are they able to take that built-up strength and take that next step forward to production on the field?
And that third outside linebacker spot, in my opinion, is a fairly critical one on this Steelers defense, because you will see T.J. Watt, because he goes 190 miles an hour all the time, he will take himself out to get a breather, for a play or two periodically. I mean, it's not, I don't know that it's really ever that the coaches sub him out. He says, I need a little bit of recoup time right now. So for him to continue to play the way that he played through the bulk of 2019, fine. Come out and, get a little break, and we'll put you back in. So that's why you need a really good third. The thing with Skipper, what my understanding is, can he learn it? Because there's more to it than what you do in the preseason at that position. Put your hand or stand in a 2-point stance and try and run around the tackle and get to the quarterback. There's a lot more involved when you look at what Bud Dupree and T.J. Watt contribute to that defense. There's a lot more than just rushing the passer.
Sure.
So can Skipper, come around quickly enough to understand the defense, to fill that role? And can Ola, as Wolf was saying, get bigger, hone his skills to be able to fill that role? Because as you guys said, at Anthony Chickalo's cap number and the cap situation, I don't know if he comes back.
All right, so knowing that everybody from Art Rooney II to Mike Tomlin says Bud Dupree is a top priority this offseason, Matt, we'll start with you. Where do you see this group of outside linebackers as we're sitting here today trending?
Oh, absolutely up. I mean, I don't think it was a fluke year by Bud at all. I think switching sides helped those guys. TJ continues to develop. I mean, people forget he's new to that position. I mean, when he got to Wisconsin, he was not an edge rusher. I mean, so he is still way ahead of them. And you talk to people in the league, that's a position that you usually don't come in the league and play your best football. It's usually year 3, 4, 5. You develop your hand moves. Wolf understands it better than anyone. And those guys are getting better with all the fundamentals. And I think it's very much trending up. I am a little worried about the number 3 spot, because are they both going to play 16 games? I mean, who knows? Tough game.
You make a great point, Matt, talking about the fundamentals and how fundamentally sound TJ is. And that's really, in my mind, one of the great things about Bud. Bud finally has put it together in the sense of this. I saw more attention to detail over his pass rushing and his hand placement and his decision making as far as how do I rush a passer. You know, one thing about Joey Porter, he always used to say, come up to the line of scrimmage with a plan. Don't come up there and go, oh, gee, yeah, I'll just run up the field. You know, have a plan in your mind. And right now, what we're seeing from Bud was, I'm seeing the hand trap, I'm seeing the uppercut, the one and done, the crossover. I mean, all that stuff that you want to see from your outside guys, he's been putting it together. And I think the mirror opposite has been TJ Watt, who has been a guy who has always paid attention. I think Bud takes all that great physical attributes, pays attention to the details of his work, seeing how TJ Watt, I think the two of them together have really been, again, the 1 and 1 equals 3 through what they brought.
To me, it's all about the number 3 guy. I don't think anything more needs to be said about either Bud Dupree or TJ Watt in terms of what they are right now and what they can become. But you are going to need a third guy, even if it's 6 plays a game on each side. And so the real, whether the outside linebackers are truly trending up, I think comes down to Ola, Tuzar skipper, and whatever decision is made on Anthony Chickalo. Or can you find someone else? But again, I don't know that bringing in a rookie, you can put him
It's a lag time. There.
right. I mean, it's can you expect what you need from your third guy from a rookie as a rookie?
That could be one of those positions in July when we're at camp going, well, there's a veteran out there you can get on a 1-year deal and throw him in as the 3, something like that possibly. But one of these guys could step up too.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for joining me today. And thanks to everyone for submitting your questions. We'll get to much more next week as well. That's going to do it for this edition of the Steelers Roundtable. We'll see you then.